Hi everyone, my name is Jocelyn and welcome to All We Make Is Good. Today I have exactly one project to talk about, and it is the same project that I talked about last week, and that is my cowl neck reknit of an old sweater of mine. This was my birthday gift to myself for 2022, and while I loved it and wore it all the time, it did have some construction flaws, so this is the official reknit. The project did turn into quite a stash buster in the end. I dug out a few more skeins of colorways that were already in this project, as well as two more Malabrigo Rios skeins that I had in my stash that were both Archangel, the colorway. And then using up some sock yarns held double. So this is kind of a mishmash of DK, worsted, and fingering held double to create this whole project. I'm actually just realizing that I forgot the belt. Okay, 1 second. So altogether, I think I used roughly 11 skeins of yarn. This is the seed stitch belt that goes with it. I did little tapered edges so that I could tie it in a kind of like a gigantic bow right in the middle, and cinch it in that way. I'll put a clip after I'm done talking about all the details on this project. I'll put a clip of me wearing it at the end. It is not blocked, so it won't sit exactly the way that it will once it's blocked. It does have a ton of weight on it, so I'm expecting it to lengthen a little bit after I block it, but let me just get into it. So in the last episode, I believe I only had the top construction done. I don't know if I had split for sleeves yet or anything like that, and I definitely did not have the cowl done yet. So this is almost an entire skein of Cascade 220, I believe. I think it was Cascade 220. And this is just the white. I had this in my stash. I inherited it from my friend Peggy a couple of years ago, and I think this is how you do cowls. I can't imagine that they would be really any different. But I just picked up, I picked up every stitch on the front neck opening and on the back. And I think I did 4 out of every 5 stitches on the saddle shoulders. And I think I also did 4 out of every 5 stitches on the diagonal parts of the neck. So I think this whole section here is every 4 out of 5 stitches. And I made sure to pick up, I think I picked up an even number. I can't remember. Honestly, already I can't remember. The goal was to finish this in time for Thanksgiving, which is last Thursday. And when that did not happen, I had finished the neck and both sleeves and almost all of the body, and it was long enough to wear as a sweater, and I almost wore it on the needles, except I didn't want to tote around the yarn that was still attached to it, so I didn't do that. And then once I didn't meet my goal of having it completely done by Thanksgiving, I slowed way down. So now I'm like forgetting details already. But I think it was 44 rows of just plain stockinette when I picked it up. And then I did, I think 24 rows of seed stitch. And then I did an Italian bind off for the stretch. And because I love doing the Italian bind off. Anywhere that there's going to be a 1x1 stitch pattern, I'm going to do an Italian bind off. I don't care. So that was the cowl. The sleeve construction I talked about in my last episode. I did a bit of a saddle shoulder on top and then increased every row for 4 rows, every row for 8 rows, every row for 8 rows, every other row for 8, every 4th row for 6 repeats, every other row for another 4, and then every row for the final 4 increases. And then I cast on 8 stitches underneath the arms, and then I knit the arms straight until here, which hits me roughly about there on my arm. So straight all the way to that point, and then I decreased, I think it was 4 stitches every other row. Was it 4? Maybe it was 8 stitches every 4th row. And then I can't. Anyways, I did some level of decreases every 4th row, and then I did those decreases again every other row or something, down to this many stitches. I'm forgetting all of the counts now, but all of these numbers will be listed in the Ravelry project page. It is fully updated, all of my stitch counts, all of my row counts, all of everything, or just general length estimates if I didn't use a specific row count. But anyways, and then I did 24 rows of seed stitch, again with the Italian bind off for the cuff. And this is my first time doing seed stitch details, and I really, really like it. It's still stretchy, but it's double thick. It's so squishy and cozy feeling. I really like the way that this feels when it's on. And this hits me pretty much right there on my arm, I think. And then it does have enough fabric to go up over my hand if I want it to. And again, I think that these will grow a bit in blocking as well, so it will add a little bit of even more length on the arms, which I love having extra fabric on my arms. So for the body piece, for the body, I knit straight until I hit my waist, my natural waist, and then I started increasing gently in the body. So I think I did every 4th row to start, and then every 8 rows, and I did 4 repeats of each of those. And then I knit until I had to calculate how much yarn I had left and how much would be needed for the front and back split section. This is a split hem. And then I picked up stitches around the edge at the end, and you can see it's still kind of curling. This will be fixed when it's blocked. But I picked up stitches around the edge from the purl side so that it has this really nice defined border before the seed stitch. And the seed stitch is to help it not curl as much. And the rest of this curling bit will be fixed while it's blocked. And then I did a central double decrease at the points where the front and the back are split. The back is a little bit longer. I do remember talking about wanting to do bust darts in the front for this project, and by the time I remembered about that, it was past the point where they should be added, even though I did need them. But with it being so long, it kind of all just evened out. So it worked out in the end. But yes, so I ran out of the solid colors. This is Fawn, and then the darker one down here is Swinger of Birches. And I ran out of it at some point and just switched entirely to the Archangel colorway. And at a certain point, I was looking at the yarn that I had left, and I was like, at some point, I'm really going to need to guess where I need to start splitting for the front and back so that I can use up every last bit of this yarn. And I did. I calculated that I was going to need, let me see, I have it right here in my notebook. I needed 1.4 grams per one side. So 2.8 grams for a full row all the way around in the round. And I needed to divide that into the front and back. And I knew I needed 20 rows of straight stockinette before I did the decrease sections, which is every other row for, or every fourth row for 4 repeats, every other row for 4 repeats, every row for 4 repeats. I love when things add up in multiples of 4. So I always do that. So I calculated that I would need 36.4 grams, which I rounded up to 38 grams for each of the decrease sections. And then I had to calculate how many grams I would need for the 20 rows in the front and the 32 rows that I wanted in the back before those decrease sections. So it turned out that I needed 148.8 grams. And when I stopped and went and weighed it, I had 145, I think roughly around 145 and a half maybe grams left. And I was like, I've probably rounded up enough that it'll be fine. I don't need to unravel any rows or anything and recover any yarn. So I ended up with like, I think maybe 1 meter of yarn left after I bound off the bottom on both sides. So that was so nice. It worked out perfectly to use up all of my variegated worsted weight yarns and this DK yarn, which was this is 100 Ravens veneer base, veneer base in the Fawn and Swinger of Birches colorway. So use those, and then I used, this is the red that I picked out at Rhinebeck this year for Corey's and my Nuggets hats, and that was this one, O negative. So I held this double and picked up every stitch around the edge, as I already mentioned. On some of this where I just was doing stockinette back and forth and I had a slip stitch edge, I had to figure out how to pick up 2 stitches per slip stitch, because when I picked it up the first time I realized that this was going to be very scrunched because I didn't pick up enough stitches. So I had to go back and pick up twice that number. So it actually worked out. With the number of itty bitty balls of yarn that I had after unraveling this from all the moth damage, I had to weave in so many ends, but I was good about it this time and I actually wove them in as I went along. So when I finished finally the Italian bind off on the seed stitch, I had no ends left to weave in other than that very last little bit, and it was done. So I am so thrilled with this project. It's so cozy, it's so squishy. I know I've said before that I don't like wearing heavier garments because I overheat very easily, but I don't know. I tried this on and I was like, oh, this is so luxurious. This is so cozy. I don't know. Maybe I will make more DK to worsted weight garments. Probably not for a while, but I'm thinking about it. So that, I think, is all of the details I wanted to mention about this. Again, I have to block it, but I think that's everything. If there are details that I missed about how I knit this, the construction in general, all of the notes will be on the project page. I just finished updating it this morning after I finished this bind off. I only did 8 rows of seed stitch on the bottom because I didn't want to use up too much of this red, because I still have one more Nuggets hat to make with this. And while I only needed like 40-ish grams, I think, of this colorway for that, I didn't want to use it. I didn't want to get that close to the 40 grams left. I think I have 54 left now, which makes it perfect for doing the Nuggets hat, and then I'll have like just the right amount to hold this double again and do one mitered square for my scrappy blanket that I've been slowly working on over the last couple years. Of anytime I have like 20 grams left of a skein, I'll throw it in the blanket or something. So I would love to add this to that blanket. So because this has taken up so much of my mental space the last couple of weeks, I think this was a 3-week project, working on it very heavily for 3 weeks. I have nothing in my brain of what I want to cast on next, other than maybe finishing those hats with all of these skeins of yarn that are next to me. So maybe do my last Nuggets hat, my last Broncos hat, and then step back and see where I'm at. But this is pretty much my gift to myself this year. And I'm just so happy with the way it turned out. I've tried it on with just the top finish, and it fits my shoulders the way that I wanted it to. Everything just sits the way that I was envisioning, and I'm so happy with it. So if this blocks out to be as good as I think, I'm probably going to sit down and think about buying yarn to reknit this in 1 weight of yarn, probably a DK weight. That way I have like an actual sample, and I'm going to try to turn this into a pattern, either stopping it short at a sweater, or because 10 to 11 balls of yarn is a lot of money to spend on yarn for one sample that that I'm not sure I want another DK garment out of. So, I didn't even talk about the belt. So this, I started making this when I got to about, actually, I think I got to like here, and I realized I had very, very little of the Swinger of Birches left. So I had one more skein of it, but I knew I wanted to make a belt. So I was like, well, I'll make the belt first, and whatever is left of Swinger of Birches, I'll add it to the body of the dress, and then just switch over to Archangel once it's run out. And I ended up using the entire ball on this belt. So I started from one end with 3 stitches. I slipped the outer stitch on this edge every row. I did not do any slip stitches on this row, or on this side, excuse me, because I tried it in the beginning and it was kind of like pulling this tight. So I decided not to do any slip stitches until I got to the full width that I wanted. And then I ended on an odd number of stitches so that both of the edge stitches would always be a slipped knit stitch. So that created a really nice edge on both sides. I love that it just already lays flat in the seed stitch. It has a lot of elasticity, but like it like actually grips and tries to come back to shape. This is approximately 35 grams of the Hoovian colorway, which is the base color of the Nuggets hat. I had a little bit left from the first hat that I did out of the first skein, so I knew I wasn't going to use another full skein of yarn for the next hat, so I used up the last little bit, which was only 35 grams. And it ended up being perfect. I think this blue goes really nicely with the other variegated colorways in there. There's like tiny spots of this blue in some places. So I switched to that color, knit until it was gone, and then picked up the rest in the last of the Swinger of Birches, decreased on the same side. So when I tie this in a little bow, it's like 2 little ribbons at the bottom with the little tapered edges. I don't know, it looks so cute. Honestly, why don't I just pause and try this on, and I'll put that video in here. Okay, here it is. That is the dress. I don't think I really have anything else to say about it other than I love it already and see myself wearing it in so many different situations. I especially I adore this bow. I'm so happy with it. Anyways, that is the only project I have to share. But I do have one advent calendar that I have been opening. I bought 2 advent calendars this year. One of them is Pigment and Ply, which is the one that had already arrived and I have been opening. The other one is from Naughty Pine, and she unfortunately has not shipped them out yet. I know it is December 6th, but she had some unfortunate life situations where she couldn't ship it out on time. So I'm gonna open those up when they get here, and I'm not really bothered at all by it, but I know there are a lot of people that are upset by the delay. And she did send out an email that says that this is the last year that she will be doing advent calendars because of this and how much she has disappointed people with the delay this year, but I hope she comes back and does it. Naughty Pine is the only person that I've ordered an advent calendar every year for the last 3 years since I started doing yarn advent calendars, and I really hope that the stress of this year washes away and she comes back to it again. Maybe not next year, but maybe the year after or something like that. But anyways, I will be happy with it no matter when it comes. So if you got a Pigment and Ply Advent calendar and you don't want any spoilers, look away. So I'm going to start with day 1. Actually, let me get the little pamphlet that was in it so I can read out the names of the colorways too. So day 1 is the Quiet Between Pages, and that is this one. I'm going to try and get the lighting on it as best I can, but it's really gloomy out today. There's no sun whatsoever. That's why I have all my little lamps on. But I love this one. This reminds me so much of the colorways that she had 2 years ago. That was the last time I got one from Pigment and Ply. I wasn't a huge fan of the colorways that of the mood boards that she had last year, so I skipped that advent. But the one 2 years ago was also very like moody jewel tones like this, and it very red based, and I loved it. So this is day 1. Day 2 is Notes in the Margins, and it's a solid red. So this year she's doing variegated solid, which I love. Naughty Pine did that last year, but the variegateds were much more white based, and then the solids were darker. So I love this red. So pretty. Number 3 is Poems in Pencil. Another love. Corey really liked this one with the little bits of blue in there. I adore this. The camera's not picking up enough of the nuance. There's like little bits of pink in there and everything, tiny bits of orange. There's like little dark speckles. It's a very, very pretty colorway. This one is much more depth to it in person when the lighting is better. Day 4 is No One Writes Anymore, and it's like a lovely, I don't know which spice I would call this. It's like too light to be cinnamon. Maybe it's nutmeg or something, or like maybe it's just like burnt pumpkin. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's a very lovely dark orangey brown. Like it just spice. It just reminds me of spices. I don't know. Fall spices. Okay, day 5 is The Sound of Other People Talking. And this one's really interesting. This has a lot of different colors in it. This is more, I would say, on the purpley side, and I see some greens, definitely some oranges. I wouldn't say that this is my favorite out of the 3 variegated that we've gotten, but still a really lovely colorway. for sure. All right, and then today, day 6, is Bitter Little Brew. And this is the prettiest brown I've ever seen in my life. This is the brown. This is my favorite brown ever. And it's coming off very dark on camera, but it's so rich. It's such a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous brown. I love this one so, so much. I have to photograph the last 2 days. I've been waiting for a good sunny day to photograph it in the spot that I usually do to add it to my Ravelry stash, but I haven't had another sunny day yet. But those are all of the Advent skeins that I have. I will hopefully get the next Advent calendar next week. I know she has created the shipping label, but it hasn't updated since then to say like, oh, UPS has the package, they are delivering it. So we'll see when I get it. But I will open all of the days once I get it and show all of you next week. So thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope you enjoyed listening to me explain a little bit about this dress creation, and I hope you're enjoying whatever you're knitting on. Have a good rest of your week or weekend whenever you are watching, and I'll see you in the next one.